Dalia's Politically Incorrect Show with the Poly Tips of the Week. Welcome, everybody. Hi, this is Dalia Urman here with Politically Incorrect on TLA Radio. And I have an amazing guest today because Natalie Fabrizio, because we think alike and I love it. I love to hear people's opinion. And it's not just opinion, it's a way of life and what we're going through here in California and America in general.
The country. Mm-hmm.
The country and what's happened to us since elections and onward. And it hasn't even been a long time since the elections. I mean, let's face it, it has not even been a year now.
That's
and
right.
We've gone through such a huge change. And the people are silent.
They are
How do you
silent.
Explain that? Like with Trump, anything he did, and even if it was good,
they
there
couldn't
was
stop. They couldn't stop talking about it.
Yeah.
It was and now you're right, there's silence.
Silence.
And I don't understand the silence.
Mhm.
I feel like if you believed in the policies of your administration, of your leaders, why is everybody so quiet right now? It's shocking.
Right.
And what shocks me, one of the biggest shockers for me is our southern border.
Yes.
Our southern border is wide open. It continues to be wide open to this day. And we have the levels of trafficking are at an all-time high. The policies that were in place with this last administration worked. So why were they dismantled by the new administration? What is the reason for dismantling policies that work, that keep trafficking low, that keep major violent gangs like MS-13 gangs,
Correct.
drug trafficking? I mean, we have to speak out about this. We have to constantly shine a light on it, because if we don't, people aren't paying attention. I mean, I don't think that they realized the level of trafficking that went through our southern borders. And I volunteer for an organization called Operation Underground Railroad, which was started by a former Department of Homeland Security director. His name is Tim Ballard. And it's an amazing organization. And it was sort of the reason why I became so involved in what's happening now, because everything sort of is trickling together. And we see our Constitution being dismantled before our very eyes. I mean, when in the history of the country do we silence a sitting president?
Right.
When we have the Ayatollah of Iran saying the most deplorable things, tweeting the most deplorable things, and that's not silenced, about our allies in Israel.
Correct. Our major,
that's right,
most important allies in the entire Middle East.
And the reason I believe that they are so strongly our allies is because Israel is so much like the United States. They are accepting. You're not prosecuting people because of their preferences, their religious preferences, their sexual preferences. So it's frightening to me when I see all the things that are happening right now. January 6th, the propaganda being pumped through our mainstream media that this was an insurrection. This was not an insurrection by definition. There were no weapons.
Correct.
And going back to our southern border, I am horrified. I am horrified when I hear people, American citizens, saying, I believe in open borders. How could you believe in open borders if we have children, women, and boys being trafficked through our southern border? And California is the number one highest trafficking state because we harbor major airports, major coastal lines. And if you know that, why on earth would you ever proclaim to be for open borders?
I don't think that people are aware of everything going on because they only choose to do what and hear and believe what the media is telling them.
That's right.
Which is just illegal people trying to get a better life. Mm-hmm. Well, nowhere in the world will allow illegal people to come in if they're not legally coming into the country, meaning
That's
applying
correct.
for a visa, applying for citizenship. I mean, try to go to Europe and live in France. After 3 weeks, I think it is, or might be 3 months. I don't really know the exact number, but there is a number. You can't be there anymore. So the United States what is this with the liberals that they want anybody and everyone coming in? So they're not thinking about the trafficking. And even if they hear about it, they're silent.
They are silent.
They're silent because they can't admit to making any mistakes either.
Well, that's right. And I always say, do your research. Why are you listening to people like Anderson Cooper and Don Lemon
yes.
and all these they seem radical leftism being pumped into our society through mainstream media. And it is, what I don't understand is why these journalists, and they're not even journalists to me. They're more like talking heads. And the way I explain it, Dalia, is that to me, they are quite literally hooking for their big corporate, big tech daddy's paycheck. And they will say anything that they are told to say because you better obey. And if you don't obey, your livelihood will be gone. You will be stripped of any financial gain that you're able to make, and your name will be slaughtered. And is that a free country?
No. It's also not journalism. Journalism used to be bipartisan.
That's right. Where's the research? Right. Who's doing the research? And I mean, this is what you see coming out of the CCP. This is what you see coming out of China, propaganda. And you ask anyone who has come here from China, and they will tell you what they're seeing is propaganda at its fullest.
Also, if you speak to Iranians, especially Iranian Jews that left and fled at the not Ayatollah, I just can't think of the name right now. When they fled, they're saying that they're seeing the same things going on today that what they ran away from then.
That's right.
They're seeing the same type of mentality happening, and that people are believing the media and the extreme left.
Right, the extreme progressive left. And all of this and all of these social justice causes, I mean, they're nonsensical. It's just like one after the next. There's one next new social justice cause that absolutely is false. The premise is based on lies. And you have all these kids, these 20-somethings believing in it.
Correct.
And it's shocking to me that the mainstream media promotes it. They push it. And if you talk to anyone, like you said, who comes from oppression, real oppression, they see the signs.
Yes, including Cubans. I went to some of those Trump rallies, and there was Hispanics for Trump, and I spoke to them, and they said, if you really knew what it's like to not be in a completely free country, free to do what you want, vote for how you want, and live the way you want, you wouldn't be voting for the left. You would only be voting for the right, because the left want to make us a weak people that need government.
That's right. They want big gov. And I don't understand that. I mean, isn't it enough that the government takes your money? You want them to take your life too? I mean, that surprises me, but I do believe, like you said, I don't think people understand. I don't think they realize. I mean, I had a discussion. Well, it wasn't a real discussion. Someone I know didn't like something that I posted way back when.
They didn't block you?
They didn't block me.
I get blocked.
Oh, well, I'm sure I've lost
I
some
lost a
friends.
lot.
But that's okay. You know, if that's what you want to believe,
Right.
then you go ahead and believe it. But you know what? It's going to be too late when your eyes are wide open, because you'll be standing in a bread line, and people think that's a joke.
No, it's not a joke. History repeats itself.
That's
And if
right.
you don't learn from it, then you
That's
can't
right.
change what's going to happen, the outcome of the future.
You can't.
Yeah.
That's right. That's why, and I believe that California is their dry run for socialism. They everything they want, they implemented here first. And we are a sanctuary state.
Yeah.
And so that leads into other questions to me. Here we are.
Many questions.
Many, right? It's so convoluted, and there's so many layers to what's going on. You literally have to do a full year of research to even scratch the surface.
Yeah, and even then you might not really know everything.
That's right.
And you brought up something about what's happening now, like breadlines, which is down the future. But right now we're having rolling electric shortages. They're doing it on purpose. They're turning off our electricity. Gavin Newsom has said that he wants to only allow showers and water running in certain homes on certain days. I mean, do people know about this?
I don't think so.
People are not really finding out the truth.
This is the elitist dream, right? Because socialism keeps the rich rich and richer, and the poor poor and poorer. And what happens to the middle class?
Yeah. They disappear.
They totally disappear.
Yes.
And I don't understand the mindset. It's just kind of like all the hypocrisy that's been going on with the shutdown. When in the history of the world have we financially shut down our economy? When?
Never.
That's right. And this sort of global elitism, secularism is poison. It's poison to our country, because like you just said, history repeats itself. And people
We don't have a history with this. We don't even have a history. We're creating history.
We are creating history, and it's history that we don't want.
We're creating this.
I have family members through my sister who they came here from Cuba, and they know the horrors of what they lived through there.
And going through now.
Yeah. And going through now, and America is setting the tone again. I mean, the people, the freedom fighters that we have now here, that's what's sort of igniting the fires in Cuba for the freedom fighters, the warriors in Cuba who are standing up to the government. And the radicalism of the government. How much longer can this go on there? I mean, this has been how many decades of oppression there?
Right.
And Cuba used to be the French Riviera.
Yes.
For celebrities. And that's the other problem we have. We have Hollywood pushing this agenda. And I believe they must be clueless, brainwashed, or
I think it's a combination of all the above. Plus, you need to stay popular, and just like you said, you'd be outed. Maybe somebody won't watch your movies. Maybe you're not going to be taken into a movie or program or TV or whatever. I think it's a kind of just go with the flow. How do they say? They herd of sheep, just move in and go with it. And I do think that some of them, although they seem to talk and say that they know everything about it, I think they're clueless of what's really happening.
They are clueless.
And what about the silence right now about the children still in what they call so-called cages on the border?
Right.
It hasn't gone away.
It has, and not only has it hasn't gone away, it has increased.
Correct. Yes, and silence. Nobody cares anymore.
Right. What happened to all the celebrities who were talking about the children in cages at our borders when Trump was president?
Correct.
Well, it's grown exponentially. We are predicted to have 1.8 million illegal immigrants by the end of the year.
I'm not sure what people are thinking. We have so many homeless veterans that fought for our country sleeping on the streets. That's right. Have you driven by the Westwood and where, the veterans, the
veterans cemetery.
That whole area is full of homeless veterans. How are we going to feed, clothe, our own people if we're letting people come in off the streets? I'm afraid. I live in a gated neighborhood. When I walk outside now, there's tents set up. I'm afraid to even walk with my dog.
Yep.
So we have an ex-police officer that used to live in our community that I called this week to ask him if there's anything legally that we can do about this.
Mm-hmm.
He says that they were instructed that unless some heinous, and it has to be extreme heinous crime is happening, they can't interfere and not allowed to. I said, I have a German Shepherd. He goes, so why are you scared? I said, because he likes to protect me. What if someone comes too close to me and he starts jumping? I mean, I'm holding him.
Mm-hmm.
He's not going to do anything, obviously, unless someone's really, attacking. He says, this is what he says, that the police motto became, better to be judged by 12 than carried by 6. Can you believe it?
No,
That's
I can't.
scary.
That's a disgrace.
Yes, exactly.
It's a disgrace.
It's scary.
And what we're seeing is people who are being appointed to positions like Gascon.
Yes.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
That are just basically allowing criminals to run amok amongst the society here.
Right.
And they're being allowed to commit crimes and not be prosecuted for them.
Even at the market, at restaurants, they're taking things and walking right out. Everyone's scared to stop them. Nobody's doing a thing with the $950?
$50.
Yeah, they can do anything they want.
I know. I mean, I've seen videos of it too. I'm sure you have. Like garbage bag fulls of things being taken out of the store.
Right in front of people.
In broad daylight.
And it used to be where people had to hide. And I mean, it always happened, a little bit of crime, but it was harder. And they were scared. They're not scared today.
No one's scared today.
Yeah.
Criminals aren't scared today.
That's the sad part. That's the scary part.
Scary.
Yeah, that is really scary.
And we have our children to protect. I mean, our children are the future of this country, and they're being taught to hate our country.
Which is very, very sad and scary because they're brainwashed. They actually believe it. And I'm talking to kids and teenagers and college students, and I'm shocked. They're so brainwashed that they cannot even, it's almost like a cult-like mentality right now with them. Very few are willing to look at the other side or stay with their core basic upbringings and things like that. Yeah, very few.
I've seen it with some kids in their 20-somethings.
Correct.
And I was really, it's infuriating to me to hear them collectively speak about law enforcement so disparagingly. It's like, but you'll be the first one to call them.
Of course, nobody thinks about that. They don't consider that when they're out in the streets yelling and screaming and going to the polls. They're not thinking about that. And speaking of polls, they're saying that a lot of people from California don't like what's happening. So they're moving to places like Texas, Arizona,
Idaho,
Miami, Tennessee, Republican-run states. So what do? They're running away from this.
What they created here.
And then they're creating it there. They're voting for the same thing they ran away from. That's the sad part.
It's mind-boggling, isn't it?
They're going and ruining the same place that they're running to have a better life. They're regressing the whole state.
Yep. I know, it's mind-boggling.
Yeah.
And you just can't, where are the critical thinking skills? Where's the common sense?
There isn't.
I mean, there isn't.
I don't see it right now.
In adults, I know. And it's like, how can you honestly believe the propaganda that you're being fed? But I've talked to friends about it, and they're like, they're not seeing the news that you're seeing. They're not reading the things that you're reading.
And they think that we're brainwashed. So it runs both ways.
Yes.
Because when I've tried to talk to some people, they look at me and they go, oh, you're so brainwashed. They think that we are. So it's a big problem because there isn't really a news channel that's not either right or left. It used to be that news was just news. The newscaster would just say the news as is, not give his opinion, not change his tone of voice one way or another. I mean, nothing in the history has ever happened like what happened when Trump won the first time around, that the newscasts were sitting and crying
Oh my God, it's
on
so
TV.
ridiculous.
It was like, are you babies? But yes, they were. Ridiculous. I have some Democrat friends that called me when Trump lost now and asked me if I'm okay. I'm like, what does that mean? Are you okay? Are you functioning today? I'm thinking, that's how you guys react because it's unrealistic.
Right.
I mean, I'm sad for the country.
Yeah.
Because I can see already what's going to happen. I didn't even think that it would happen this fast, and it's happening so fast.
Well, they need to work at warp speed because they're working in the darkness of the night. That's what I believe. They're doing things. They need to work fast because if they don't work fast, things will trickle out, and more people will open their eyes, and their eyes will become wide open. And I do believe that people are waking up to it. They're waking up to our mainstream media propaganda.
I hope that you're right, but I don't see enough of it.
Well, you don't hear enough of it. People are scared.
I still think if there was an election today, I don't even think that they liked their government or who they elected. It was just they were so anti-Trump that they didn't even know what the policies would be, how it's going to be.
They didn't even research. And
that's why they're quiet today. They just don't want to say we made a horrible mistake. And some of them actually still believe in the same type of propaganda that, they're believing in.
Well, what I found most amusing to me was they were, a lot of the people who were for this championing for this new administration, they couldn't stop saying how they were voting for love. And I thought, no, you're not.
Right.
You're voting out of sheer hatred from the propaganda, the lies and the falsities you've been sold by people from CNN. By people from the New York Times. The New York Times is not, to me, is not a reputable place to find my news any longer. No. That is a bunch of children, indoctrinated college kids in man buns, writing opinion pieces.
Yes.
I mean, it's like, I know someone who we were trying to, I had posted something and he came at me and I was like, oh, come on. Seriously, it was like a joke that I posted.
And they took it serious.
And they took it very seriously, and sent me a text message. Like, I haven't received a text message from this person in I don't know how long, and I'm like, what? Why on earth do you think that you can send me a text message like that and think that you can just bully me into believing what you believe? I've done my research. I know what's going on.
Yeah.
And I tried. I sent like literally a 3-page factual smackdown of researched data. I got memes back. And I was like, that's just willful ignorance to me. And
that's what it is. That is what it is. And it's their way or the highway.
Especially in here.
And it's really scary because I have been outed from parties, taken off of social media, especially now that I'm having a podcast, of course. And on the other hand, I've also gained new friends and new people and new followers. But it's just sad to see that there's such a big difference. Can't you just listen to one side or another? Or can't you just think for yourself and try to come to your own opinion? It's just not happening.
Yeah, well, I think it's not happening, and I think it's incredibly difficult, especially for the people who live in California, because they are so brainwashed by Hollywood.
Yeah.
And what Hollywood says, and that's another thing I laugh about. I'm like, does anybody realize that these are people who quite literally take direction for a living?
Right.
And they're not allowed to have free thought, because if they have free thought, they are going to lose their livrlighoods.
Yes.
And they need to obey. There's a chain of command, and you better obey. And the other way I feel is, if you don't feel that way and you are in the you are working, or you're in the entertainment business, or whatever industry you're in, how about you just be quiet? How about you not say things just to parrot what you're hearing from mainstream media like CNN? but they don't, I guess, because they believe it.
It never used to be that an actor comes out publicly and talks about politics.
No.
Now it's popular, and they use the platform when they're having the Academy Awards or different award shows. And I actually find it, how is it possible that, speaking of awards, and I always say it every time it comes up, and I'm sorry if I don't remember the correct name of the show, because I don't watch any of these anymore, but what is it called? The Black, there's an award for just Black actors.
Oh, like the BET Awards?
Yes. If we had a white award,
oh my God,
can you imagine? There would be fires in the street. The streets would be torn down. Why is this not racist?
I don't.
That is racist.
Right. Racism goes always, right?
Of course.
It's not just, we don't just direct it to one.
Yes.
And I think people seem to forget that the United States of America are the ones who abolished slavery.
Correct.
And we are the country that is most diverse, that is called a melting pot for a reason. There's a reason people come here from other countries that want to be here. And it's because we are free, because we are allowed to have freedom of thought, freedom of speech. But these tech giants, Facebook, these corporations are silencing voices that are different than theirs. That is insanity.
I post things, and number one, I've been banned for days. You know, they put you like a block. Facebook does it.
Yes.
And then I've also posted where they're censoring it, meaning they say it's been fact checked, but it's been fact checked through their fact check.
Right. Who are their
that it's not really fact checked at all.
No, it's not like you go and research into history and you fact check. No, they're just, it's really, I mean, but a lot of people are talking about that. And when we have congressmen and senators who are speaking out about it, like they were having the Congress, the meetings with those people. It's so funny to hear them speak also, because these big tech corporations, they talk in corporate terms, and it's all, we'll put a pin in it and we'll circle back to that. It's like nothing ever really gets answered.
Right.
Because I believe that they can't answer it truthfully.
Right. Correct.
And the American people and the people of this country, no matter where you're from, and if you live here, we deserve to hear the truth. And we're not hearing the truth.
And I don't think that we will be, unfortunately, for a very long time, if ever at this point. Things are drastically changing, and changing fast.
Very fast. It's a slippery slope. But I have to believe that we are going to come out of this in 2022 with in a better place.
I hope so.
I hope so too.
What are your thoughts on it? Why? How are we going to get to a better place right now, so soon?
Well, I think what needs to happen is we need to get these old Republicans out. The people who are playing by the old rules, those rules don't apply anymore with the old Democrats. Those Democrats are long gone.
Yes.
The JFK Democrats are long, long gone.
Yeah.
We have Democratic socialists, people like AOC, people like Ilhan Omar. I mean, I don't even know how they are sitting in our Congress.
Yeah.
And I think that we need to get rid of those Republicans who are playing by those old rules, because those don't apply anymore. And we need the Josh Hawleys, and we need the Ted Cruzes, and we need people like Robbie Starbuck, who's running for Congress in Tennessee. We need voices like that who speak for all the people.
How are they going to get voted? Because there's so many people and corruption.
There's so much corruption.
Yes. I mean, the main thing is to go and vote.
It is.
That's the bottom line.
It is. And that's how, that's probably for another show, the way they manipulated the virus, the mail-in votes, the mail-in ballots. It was 100% manipulated. And if you can't see that with all the evidence that's coming up, and everyone wants to call it a conspiracy theory, these are not conspiracy theories. These are scientists. These are people who do this for a living, who know what's happening.
Right.
And I mean, I guess I don't know. I don't know all the answers. I'm not a professional. I'm
Right.
like, I'm an American citizen. I'm a mother. I'm a wife. I'm a small business owner.
What's your business?
Oh, so I have a dress line called Rock and Cotton.
That's what I saw on the Instagram, but I wanted you to talk about it. That's so nice.
And I refurbish, I upcycle clothing.
Amazing.
And concert T-shirts, and I make dresses for little girls. And I have ebbs and flows with it. I'll be honest. I go through ebbs and flows with it. But it's my small business, and it really saddens me what they've done, what has been done to small business. When this all happened and we had this shutdown, didn't anybody shake their head and say, there's hundreds of people going through Walmart and Target and the market and places like that? Why are we closing tiny little stores that can monitor how many people come in and out?
Nobody said a word about anything. I think that, first of all, it was shocking to everyone. All of a sudden, we didn't know what's happening.
No,
I mean, we thought
2
that
weeks.
maybe the military is coming in. Maybe it'll be a total shutdown. People were panicking and buying food. Let me tell you, I was at Costco yesterday in Northridge, and there was no toilet paper. And I mean, people were panicking just because the news came on yesterday with the Delta variant. I think people were a little bit, and additionally, because the gas prices went up and now we're having shipment problems. And
well, they cut our pipeline.
And the pipeline, well,
I mean,
isn't that what he promised that he's not going to do?
That was one of the things that he said. Yeah. Why are we shutting down a pipeline that is here in our country?
There is no reason.
There's no reason
except for corruption. And more corruption.
There's an agenda.
And there's a big agenda behind it. Yes.
And, the other thing that really is infuriating to me when people take advice from celebrities and elitists, it's, well, you know what? While they're sitting back, sipping their quarantinis in their beach houses, and they're posting about it, and you're losing everything.
I love that, quarantinis. I'm going to use that. Thank you. Yes, and they're posting it, and other people are struggling, not just struggling. There were children that didn't have food because they relied on food at school. There was a lot more abuse, homes that have abuse, being home all day long with the abuser doesn't help. There were so many issues.
And those are the things that we should be speaking about on mainstream media.
What about the fact that they said you don't need to pay rent? What about the owner of the apartment buildings or the shopping malls? They are not allowed to survive. They still have to pay mortgages, insurances. So it's okay. Let's get rid of the rich. That's what let's just try to wipe them out because they're not going to be paid. Big problems, big issues all around. But you know what? It was worldwide. It still is. If not was, it still is. Right. In a way.
It is. And it does make you wonder. You look at these European countries like Australia. I mean, I just see red flags all over the place. I see government overlords squashing people, and it's unacceptable. And people need to open up their eyes, and they need to do the research, and they need to realize what's going on. When you have other countries reporting our news accurately, it's a problem.
Yes. But you know what? I remember years ago at the earthquake, our real earthquake numbers came from, I think it was Switzerland or something like that. Because here, already then it was corrupted where they lowered the number because after a certain, let's say, I don't know what the number is, after 7.9, I think it is, then FEMA has to come in and everybody gets money. And they at first said what the real number was of the earthquake, and then they lowered it so that doesn't have to happen. Right. So there's been corruption all along. It's just gotten worse and more popular.
More popular.
And accessible, meaning it's okay, just do it.
Because we have
Right.
social media.
Yes.
Social media, while it's great for business owners, it's a death sentence for our life in general, because people are glomming onto it and just believing everything they see and
Yes.
and hear through that.
Well, some people are only reading news on Facebook, but that's not always news. Sometimes it is. I'm not going to say it's always not,
Sure.
but many times it's not. And they're getting their news, their information, what's happened throughout the world, the day, through social media, but Facebook in general. And now Instagram has become more popular than Facebook, but at least Instagram is not as, there is some news on it, but it's not as much as Facebook has on it.
Right.
Mm.
And interestingly enough, Mark Zuckerberg, I saw an interview with him where he was saying that the FBI came
Mm-hmm.
to their offices or spoke to them about one of the Hunter Biden laptop story.
Mm-hmm.
And they said that's disinformation, and we need you to be careful about what you're publishing.
Right.
And I don't know if he realized that what he was saying was they were telling you.
Right. That there is something like that, just we can't give it out.
We can't let the public
Yes.
know about it. But well, why is that? I
Right.
mean, they couldn't stop talking about everything Trump.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's and his children, and I mean, I've never seen anything quite like it. The way they just the media just they made such a switch. Before he put an R next to his name and ran, they didn't talk about him that way. They made fun of him.
Yeah.
But they didn't talk about him the way that they did. They do now.
Yeah.
So
because he wasn't mainstream politician.
That's right. He's a businessman.
He didn't go correct, and he didn't go with the flow and the corruption that's usually done throughout all our history, every presidency. So he was out there changing things and actually helping the people, but they can't see it, and helping the country.
I mean, if you go back to our southern borders, his border policies implemented, they worked. Everything went down. Our numbers went down. Trafficking, gangs, it all went down. I mean, why on earth you would dismantle that?
Makes zero sense.
And the only thing I can think of, it's just for votes.
But it's terrible that now, just to get a vote, you can go and ruin the country.
Right. I mean,
you can ruin the people. I mean, it's scary. I mean, the violence is up here in Los Angeles, especially tremendously.
All through the summer.
Yeah.
I spoke to people who were like, "What riots?" I'm like, "Are you? Where are you?"
I've heard people tell me that there weren't riots; they were peaceful protests, but they were not. So breaking into stores and tearing down monuments, that's not violent. Oh, no, that's our right to.
No, it's not.
You know, and I'm like, that's your right? How is that your right?
That's
and if you're the store owner,
right, that's not.
And monuments, that's our history. How are you going to learn from history? That's a factual history.
That's right. We had cities burnt down to the ground. Because of BLM riots.
Yes.
With Antifa and BLM.
Yes.
And then we have our current president, Joe Biden, saying that Antifa is an idea. They have a flag. They come in with baseball bats and weapons, and they cause mass destruction, mass chaos, and death. People were being killed.
Yes.
And you weren't hearing about this on mainstream media.
No.
You had reporters standing in the street, I'm sure you saw it, saying, this is mostly a peaceful protest. And there was a blaze of fire of a city burning down behind him.
Yes, we all saw this, but half the people don't want to see what was really happening.
They don't. And I think it scares them, and rightfully so. It is scary.
Yeah.
But you have to pay attention. You have to do your research. You have to know what's going on. You have to know what the policies that work best for the country at large as a collective. Yes. You can't prosecute an entire profession because one person is bad, because some are bad. What I saw with defunding our police, they are begging for police in Seattle now.
It makes zero sense. Actually, no sense whatsoever to defund the police. That's insanity.
Right. The people who put their lives on the line every single day for strangers, who selflessly, who have families and children, right? It's their job and that's what they chose to do.
Yes.
And they do accept the consequences of that. So why aren't criminals accepting why aren't people accepting the consequences of criminals?
I love that you said that. We're going to be wrapping this up in a few minutes. So I do want to ask you a question. And first of all, I really appreciate you coming out here. But I do want to ask you a question because you said that you were working with an organization in the beginning and we got carried away with our conversations. Can you just tell us a little bit about what you do there? And
the organization is called Operation Underground Railroad, Our Rescue. And it was started, like I said, by Tim Ballard, who is a former Homeland Security director, and they go all over the country and rescue children, women, boys who are being trafficked. And it all started with there's a documentary, and I highly encourage everyone to watch it. It's called Operation Toussaint, and it is about why the organization was started by Tim Ballard. And there's also another, the film version of his story coming out called Sound of Freedom, starring Jim Caviezel, and Mira Sorvino is in it. And that's another way you can learn about the organization. And I encourage everyone to volunteer for this organization. They have made great strides in the trafficking world of shining a light on it and helping rescue. And they also have homes that when they do rescue these children, that they can stay in these homes. And it's something that I started, I think it was July of 2019 when I first heard about the organization. And once you find out about the organization and you hear the amazing work that they are doing, you couldn't help but want to help. These are our children. They're all our children.
Yes. Well, thank you. First of all, that's amazing. I really like that. I'm going to look into it also, and I'm going to watch that you said that.
Thank you. Please do.
And I hope that the audience does as well. Thank you, Natalie, for being here. There's so much to talk about. I mean, we only just touched a little bit on it, but there's so much more to talk about.
Thank you so much.
And thank you for coming out here. I know you took a long drive and came out to meet me. Thank you to TLA Radio. Thank you to my watchers. Politically Incorrect with Dalia Urman. Have a great afternoon, everybody. Bye.
Bye. Thank you.